Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're staying warm, and I hope you have power. Two most important things. We're going to dive into this movie called PRIMATE. Let's take a look. Now, I almost didn't watch this one because I'm not really into these teen scream movies, but I thought that this was one I should probably take a look at. Now, it released on January 9th, which is 1/9, that's 19. And I thought there's no possible way this could have anything to do with COVID-19, but it actually has everything to do with it. And it's a little more than your typical teen scream horror film. I call these kinds of films post-confirmation programming. Now, a film like this, they would likely never release predictively before an event like CV-19, but they release these films after to confirm most of the theories that people had beforehand. It's a form of gaslighting, and it follows a family whose monkey is bitten by a mongoose, after which it develops rabies, and it goes on a killing rampage. Now, what happens is the father, he's deaf, and he goes off for some kind of work thing, and the teens are left alone at home, chased by this crazy chimpanzee who has rabies. They're trapped in a pool. We're going to break all that down today as we move through this decode. Now, let me check in with you guys and let's go ahead and get started on this. The film opens with a zookeeper trying to give the monkey a vaccine. And it was a cryptic reminder to me of how the lockdown and how many people felt that as though they were forced to take the vaccine. Let's take a look, you guys. This is us in the lockdown.
Okay, Doc's orders. Hug the bear and take the jab. Okay, Doc's orders. Hug the bear and take the jab. Got a bit of a hangover there, bud? Come on, you've had shots before. Okay.
Unbelievable. Now, if it was just that, we wouldn't be here doing a decode this morning, but there's so much more. This woman here and her friend are reunited after being apart for years, and they're going to the home in Hawaii. The parents are primate researchers, and on the flight home, the two best friends share angel wings. And you'll see what this means later in the decode. Let's take a look.
You got me, girl. Okay. Uh-huh.
They each have their angel wings, which is likely fallen angels. Well, let's keep watching here. Now, at a certain point, the teens have a party after their dad leaves to his author signing, whatever, because he's an author, primate researcher. But they are all unaware that the chimpanzee has been affected. And here's where we get our first connection between the jab that you heard about earlier in the decode and the mark of the beast. Literally, the soundtrack says 666. Listen.
Okay.
Then they all realize that Ben is the name of the chimpanzee. We're going to start calling him by his name. That he is not right. And we see the markings on his face that begin to look like the goat horns of the Baphomet. So we have further 666 confirmation, the Baphomet horns, the song that says 666. Oh, but wait, there's more. The teens finally realize that something is wrong with Ben. He attacks, he bites the sister, and the boy is looking around feverishly for something to tie Ben up with, and he accidentally pulls out a copper blue blood hemocyanin crab. Wow. He throws it over the edge. That's an infinity pool. They live in Hawaii in this big house. And Ben's owner, one of the girls, even her name is Lucifer. Lucy.
It's me. Lucy.
Now, Ben has a fear of water, which is heightened when an animal is infected with rabies. We all know this. And the swimming pool is the only safe place for the teens. So they gather there. Let's keep watching.
Can chimps get rabies?
Now, we had already made the connection between rabies and the jab. Remember? We did copious amounts of videos. Everyone thought we were fear-mongering. Oh, you're just making stuff up. There's no way we're going to have a zombie apocalypse. There's no way we're going to have rabies. And then slowly but surely, they started conditioning us to accept that rabies were becoming more prevalent. They started dropping these rabies pellets all over the states. We started having people just wilding out, attacking people. Animals started going crazy, not recognizing people as human anymore, and started attacking people. Animal attacks were up after the pandemic. So now this movie is sealing the deal. It's attaching rabies to what we just heard him say, take your jab. Now there's more to this. Much of the middle of the movie takes place in that infinity pool where they're trapped. And, of course, we all know what a small pool is. Agam refers to a pool, a pond, or a marshy spot, often implying a collection of standing water. That's in Hebrew, and we all know that Hebrew is backwards. So what does Agam spell backwards? Well, it spells the exact group that enabled Trump to make the jab to begin with. They ran cover for him. Oh, nothing to see here. No big deal. Just take his brand. It's better. The other brands were made by the Democrats. Don't take the... Yeah, it's unbelievable. Now, we also found this Agam small pool, often referred to as a swamp. Drain the swamp? Nope, it's the opposite. It's Agam. It's fill the swamp with the Agam. Now, I told you to remember these two girls with angels' wings. I told you that the wings meant fallen angels. So what do? Well, Ben takes off for a minute, but he's really baiting them into trying to come out so he can attack them because he can't go into the pool of water. So they go up the spiral DNA staircase. Yes, the spiral staircase is the DNA. But one of the angels is killed, and she falls down the stairs. Literally the story of the fallen angels. Why? Why did they fall from heaven? Well, they mixed their DNA with ours. They left their first estate. And they came down and went into the daughters of men, and God had to wipe them out with the flood. But the bloodline persisted after the flood because there were giants after the flood as well. Now, at some point, they find a float, something to float on because they get tired of treading water. The float is a pineapple. Watch.
Hey.
Now, why is this important? Well, many of you will remember the previous decode that we did, where the pineapple, I explained to you, represents the crown, your pineal gland. And remember when I told you that Martha Stewart chopped the head off of the pineal gland? Let's look it up. Thought I had that pulled up, sorry. Martha Stewart, pineapple, booster. because she was telling us to get our booster shot, remember? Got booster, and she slices the head off of the pineapple. And I told you this was taking your crown. We even talked about the milk aspect, because obviously this was a play on words. Got booster, got milk. The milk of human sacrifice. She even had the blue Band-Aid. That's like the blue crab on her right arm. The mark. You can't make this up, you guys. Martha Stewart cutting off the pineapple, and then we see it in a new movie about the same thing. Unbelievable. Now, at a certain point, the dad returns home, and the only thing that can stop the crazy Ben chimpanzee is a frequency of a whistle. And I believe that's the millimeter wave that control those who there's the dad. He blows a whistle. Ben stops. He's controlled literally by the whistle. So essentially, this is everything we said was going to happen. And it's all in this movie. Now, are they watching this channel? No. We're just seeing it before it happens. At this point, they throw Ben over the wall, and he lands on a spike with his blood spilling into a pool. And this reminded me of the final scene of a movie we decoded called Omega Man. Here's the scene right here. The final scene in the movie Omega Man, about a man, Charlton Heston, who gave his own blood for a cure for a rabies-like disease. And he's laying there in his own pool of blood in a fountain. He had given so much blood to cure the disease. This was the first movie that the later I Am Legend movie was made after. It's the same exact plot. Colonel Robert Neville made a vaccine to cure cancer. Well, the cancer cure caused the zombie apocalypse, and then Colonel Robert Neville, Corona, that's what Colonel is, gave his own blood to come up with a cure. Now, in the movie, in Primate, the mother died of cancer. So there's your cancer aspect. This is unbelievable. Into the pool of water, the Agam, the swamp. Now, many people also compared this final scene to the crucifixion. So instead of Christ giving his blood for us, people believe the false Antichrist, that his sacrifice will be the one. They're literally believing in a man instead of Jesus. That was the decision and choice everybody had when this all happened. Now, I had to look back because I thought I heard Trump say something about giving his blood, but that's not what happened. Apparently, that was misinformation, so I had to look that up. I had to fact check it. Now, unless you can show me something that he said that he gave his blood, then we have to go with what they say, right? But what a trip, right? Let's keep watching here. So they have to show the blood going into the pool.
She'll be fine.
Now, this was about the dumbest movie I think I've ever seen in my life. So I would not recommend watching the movie, but I had to decode it for you so you could see that it confirmed everything we've been talking about. The copper blue blood, the jab, the rabies aspect, the Planet of the Apes aspect, even the copycat of Charlton Heston, who was also in Planet of the Apes at the end of the movie. It all fits together like a glove. Now, make sure you check in every day because we have a full schedule going into the week. YouTube's often not going to send you notifications. Some people get them, some don't. I had to look this up to see for myself. And yes, YouTube just says, oh, sometimes we don't send out notifications. But just so you know, there will be a show every single day, at least for the beginning of the week. I already have them scheduled. So what are we going to get into next week? Well, I finished the entire first season of American Gods. Now, I had been putting this off for years, but I finally got it done. Now, this is not a series I recommend you watch. It has a lot of bad stuff in it. For those of you not in the fight to expose it, right? So I would not recommend it. I'm going to give you the PG version. But essentially, American Gods went full-blown disclosure and confirmation of more stuff that we'd already decoded. So, crazy, right? We're also going to decode Marina Abramovich's bizarre bus exhibit at Davos. And we'll get caught up on headlines that same day that we cover that. And then, I think on Wednesday, one of you found an iPetGoat to Greenland connection. So I went down the rabbit hole and I found something you are not even going to believe. There's much more to Trump's Star Wars for Greenland than you can ever imagine. Now, this is breaking news, or will be, unless someone hears this and they try to break it first. But essentially, in 2005, Bush made a deal with Greenland for Star Wars to upgrade the radar technology, and he sent Colin Powell to Greenland, and they updated the radar technology, which of course is millimeter waves. And here we are, and last year, Greenland had its own mold apocalypse. The elementary schools were filling up with mold. Now, how did we find all that? Well, one of you sent me what you thought was, again, you compared iPetGo to Greenland. And I did see some similarities. We'll discuss all that when we do that show. I mean, I wish I could just do all these shows together, but the attention span of most people is only about 15, 20 minutes. And then the decodes just get lost in oblivion and nobody watches them. So I'm just giving you kind of a teaser so you can come back for the rest of the week and see all the decodes. But yeah, it's been on fire. I guess this is what happens when it snows outside. There's nothing else to do except decode stuff, right? All right, I'm in the chat now for a little bit. I know that was a quick show, but that was pretty much all I had. Yeah, I only got about 4 to 6 inches, I want to say, here. So, what are you guys up to? Anybody? I guess I was going to ask if you lost power, but if you lost power, you wouldn't be on here, right? Deceiving Deception says, the image next to the YouTube button icon is a flower with a needle attached to the end of it. Wow. TikTok brain is the norm now. Trump started an RX company. Wow. So there you go. Trump RX. Here we go. Thanks, Zuzu Pedals. You guys are the best decoders around. Everything comes from you guys. I just put it all together and pray that I get it right. So, McCartney says, fear porn. Oh, I just said the word. I'm not supposed to say that word on YouTube. So, please expand on that. Wow, Carlos is getting 20 inches of snow. Yeah, if it was fear corn, we would be wrong every time, wouldn't we? But instead, we're right every time. So, that doesn't qualify. Now, if I was telling you there was a comet that was going to kill the Earth, and we were right on the brink of World War III every other week, and the rapture was coming every other week, then you could accuse me of that. But that's not what we do here. We give you specific, targeted things that are happening, and then they happen. And it doesn't fail. So, Dang, I took the bait. I took the bait. All right. We'll call it corn. That's what everyone else calls it. But pretty soon the algorithms are just going to, they're just going to adjust. Susie says it's 18 degrees in Anchorage. Oh boy. It's colder here than it is in Anchorage, Alaska. It's 8 degrees outside right now. 8 degrees. So, yes, they're talking about exploding trees. I don't know about that. See, that's why I didn't cover that, because to me, that kind of stuff is fear corn. I'm not to say it can't happen, but it's probably happened every other cold winter. You guys, I was decoding American Gods. You're not going to believe this. I was decoding American Gods. And there's an episode literally that felt like it was happening right now. What episode am I talking about? Many of you that remember season 1 of American Gods, you remember the part where Odin tells Sun is the main character. He's the black guy. He tells him to start thinking about snow. Over and over, the whole episode. He tells him to start thinking. Let's pull it up. Let's see if it's in here. This is unbelievable. Let's look in here. Can't even believe this. He tells him to start thinking of snow, and then snow overtakes the whole United States. It's literally happening right now. Let's see. Lemons headed you, get gone. Head full of snow. Here it is right here. Look at this. It's episode 3. And it starts snowing just from him thinking about it. And I was like, whoa, that's like happening right now. I was like, I got the heebie-jeebies. So I was like, this is crazy. How is it we just start decoding something and then it's like happening right now? Weird. Do you guys remember that episode of American Gods? So, pine trees are exploding. Says Incog. 38 in NorCal. All right. Told mainstream media not to say ice during the storm. Yeah, and then we've got ice in the middle of ice in Minnesota. I'm sure you guys have all heard there's been another person that's been killed. And I just don't want to get too much into that stuff because it's so divisive. And I think they do that on purpose. Half the people believe he deserved it. Half the people think that he was, murdered in the street. So I'll let you guys hash all that out. So I'm starting to wonder if these aren't all just operations to advance the police state and that none of this is real and all these people are just acting. I'm starting to wonder. Because it's like every few days there's another event. It's like they scheduled it. That's not normal. That's not how reality works. Right? So, yep, they want a civil war. That's what they want. So Trump can become king. Oh my gosh. There's even I can't even wait to, show you guys American Gods. I captured so many clips. There's another clip that talks about kings. And it says, oh, America doesn't have a king yet. It literally says that in American Gods. I'm like, and then he says, oh, they're about ready for a king. This was in 2019, you guys. So I'll show you guys all that. I think, is that tomorrow? I'll have to look at the schedule. But tomorrow we'll have another decode for you guys. Yeah, it feels like we're in a movie. Yeah, they want this to happen. Oh, okay, so I will say this. So the guy that was apparently, allegedly, people get mad at me. You think all this is real? I'm unsubscribed. No, I'm not telling you either way. You think for yourself. I say I give both scenarios, if it was real or if it wasn't real. Okay? So this latest guy that ate bullets, he essentially was doing concealed carry. So it's like they have every scenario covered, right? So first they did the same-sex marriage. Okay. Now they've got a guy who is doing concealed carry. It's like they have the perfect archetype to create the maximum amount of division. And so essentially what happens is they said he didn't, he had a concealed carry. It freaked out the ICE officers. And then they shot him, pretty much is what they're saying. And so, like, that's weird, right? So nobody knows if he went for his gun or not. Nobody can tell with all the different vantage points. But I can tell you this. Why are they picking the dead of winter to do ice raids? Why is ice in the ice? That's weird. That kind of lines up with I Pet Goat 2 as well. Everything, the whole icy landscape. Everything happening in the icy landscape. It's just weird. Okay, I see a question up here. Let's see here. Can you explain the significance of the blue blood and the blue crab in the movie? Okay, thanks. That's a great question, Sailor Girl. So, crabs have hemocyanin-based blood. Let's take a look. They have blue blood. Blue is the color of hemocyanin-based blood. In fact, hemocyanin means blue. Cyan is in the word hemocyanin, and it's a copper-based blood. So that lines up with, the whole aspect of the blue bloods, which we've been talking about. But let me show you this real quick. Hemocyanin. Now, the hemocyanin molecule looks like the Star of David. Here it is right here. It's a triangle on top of a triangle with the hexagon in the middle. You can absolutely see that. We exposed this years ago. The hexameric hemocyanin crystalline structure. The blue bloods, they are the other bloodline that rules us all. Okay? The first prophecy in the Bible says, I shall make enmity between you, seed of the serpent, and the seed of the woman. That's Jesus. And the serpent will strike you in the heel, and you will strike the serpent in the head. That's like an Ouroboros. It just goes round and round. And from that point forward, we tracked every single bloodline coming out of Seth and Cain. So we tracked Seth's bloodline. That's easy because Jesus tells us that bloodline goes through Solomon, David, Abraham, all the way down to Jesus. And then we tracked Cain's bloodline, and that goes through the Canaanites. It goes to Ham, Canaan, which was Ham's son, after the flood. And then it goes to the Canaanites after that. And then all the ites that you hear in the Bible that battled the 12 tribes of Israel, which was the seed of the woman, which of course is Jesus' bloodline. Okay. So the 12 tribes, Jesus was from the tribe of Judah. They battled Cain's line, which are the Canaanites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Hittites. Those are all from Cain's line. Canaan after the flood. And it went all the way down to Jesus' day. And that was the Philistines, or the Pharisees. Pharisees, Philistines. And he called them out. He says, you are of your father, the devil, the first murderer. So he called them out. So they are the ruling class. They serve their father, the devil, who runs everything. And this is a reality. How do we know the devil runs everything? Because Jesus told us that the devil is the ruler of this world. And how do we have further proof? Because the devil offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world if he would fall down in an act of worship to him. And Jesus said, no, my kingdom is coming. So right there, he said it. Now, some people say, oh, well, when Jesus died, that's when his kingdom was established. No, it's not true. In the future, it's true. But nothing changed on earth after Jesus died. It was more wicked than ever, and it's got progressively wicked till this day. So his kingdom is not yet established. That comes later. Jesus is not going to have a kingdom and then still have chaos and death and murder on earth. Not going to happen. So that's a little bit more into the blue bloodline. Cain's name literally means cyan or blue. Let's look it up. See, I bring receipts here. I don't just say things that I think are happening. There's Cain's name in Hebrew. It's Cain, which is the same as cyan, essentially. It means blue. Now, you can get into, where I'm not here today to debate who Cain's father was, because I don't even know how that would have happened in terms of, it could have happened with an act. It could have happened with DNA. We already know that happened at the flood because we saw that giants were born out of the union between fallen angels and the seed of the woman. So we know that's possible. I don't know why people are so opposed to thinking that Cain's father was someone different when it happened later in the timeline. There were these incursions happening. Now, like I said, I don't want to get into that debate today because that turns a lot of people off. But essentially, that's what I believe happened. This is why God didn't kill Cain. He gave him a second chance. He says you can choose good or choose evil. Otherwise, what is the punishment for killing your brother? That would be instant death, right? But because Cain was half human, he allowed him to live. And he said, in fact, if anyone kills Cain, he will be cursed. So you're not allowed to kill Cain. He said, let the wheat grow up with the tares. And in the end, God will do the harvest. Why? Because I believe what he was really saying, we looked all this up because wheat actually is copper dominant. I'm sorry. The tares are copper dominant. We looked it up. There's a specific kind of weed that is copper dominant. And then wheat is iron dominant. Okay. The wheat and the tares, iron blood versus copper blood. The two grow up together because a lot of people are cross mixed. And if you were trying to pull it up, yank it up, you can't because you have to wait till the harvest. It's your actions, which is exactly what God told Cain. If you choose good, you will be good. You see how this works? And the tares probably have a propensity for evil because they have some of that mixed in there. So that's why they have to conscientiously make a choice. I always give the example of my grandmother. Gosh, she was like, I don't want to use the word angel because that's blasphemous, but she was like the most kind human being I've ever been around in my entire life. My great grandmother. She used to take care of me when I was little. And every moment she was just a sweet, kind soul. Even when she was disciplining me, she was a complete and kind soul. Never seen anything like it. That's not normal for people to have a propensity for good because most people are evil, right? On some level. And so I figured, wow, that's hard to be good like that all the time. But maybe she was, that was her bloodline or whatever. And other people are just, they call them bad seeds. There's a reason why they have that phrase, a bad seed, because some people are just born and they're just over the edge. They have to literally constantly fight to try to be good all the time, right? So choose good. All right, so that was a whole long explanation for a simple question, but I feel like I can't just answer that question one way. I have to give the whole story to give you guys context. Because we've done all the research. It all makes sense. This is why Jesus had to spill his blood to correct the bloodlines. A sacrifice was required because God didn't want us condemned just based off of our blood, right? We have the choice. Here's another thing. Okay, why is it only the 12 tribes of Israel were required to do the sacrificial system with a tabernacle out in the wilderness and all that stuff, right? They had a special covenant with God because they were of the pure bloodline. The Canaanites weren't required to do that. In fact, God rejected Cain's sacrifice, which was the bounty of food, right? So even from the very beginning, Abel brought the sacrifice of the lamb, which is what his later generations would also have to bring for their sins. But Cain, God rejected that sacrifice. Now, some people say, oh, it's because he didn't bring his first fruit. Well, if you read the Bible very, very, very carefully and take out the innuendo that we've been programmed to believe that it was always because he didn't bring his first fruit, if you very, very carefully parse what you're reading and look back at the mechanical texts, it does not necessarily say that God rejected him because he did not bring his first fruits. You can move that sentence actually can mean that Cain was simply not required to. because he was not of the priestly class, the bloodline of Jesus to come. Jesus did the work. I hope this all makes sense, you guys. It makes perfect sense in my mind. It's just hard to explain it all because so many things are connected to it. We've just been given this alternate version of the Bible. You guys, people say, oh, someone came into the comments the other day and they said, why do you believe a book written by man? Well, first of all, it wasn't written. Well, it was written down by man. Why do you believe, they say, why do you believe a book that was written by King James? King James didn't write the Bible. He translated the Bible from ancient texts that were preserved. Yes, God did preserve his word completely and fully. How do we know this? Well, we had the translated texts from the much older manuscripts, and then, boom, along came a discovery in a cave, the Qumran caves. They compared that to the contemporary printings of the Bible of that era. It was in the 1940s, and lo and behold, everything matched almost perfectly. So they got it right. So that's what's going on with the Bible. All right. Now what else is going on? Little Bible study today. Jesus outstretches his arms is the bridge that closes the gap. Yes, Jews and Gentiles, both can be saved if you believe in him, be baptized, follow his example, repent, everything about the gospel. God wants no one to perish. That's in the Bible. Jesus healed and saved Jews and Gentiles. Those were the two classes of people. Those in the priestly line and those not in the priestly line. He literally told you right there. So, yes, money is of the earth and it's for earth dwellers. I agree 100%. Yes, you need it for certain things, but the people who worship it and obsess over it and try to collect it and hold on to it and exploit other human beings to try to collect it and gain advantage over their brothers and sisters, that's absolutely against the Bible. Give Caesar's things to Caesar. Yes, mistranslated verse. Context of that. You ready for this? Gosh, you guys have some good questions this morning. Oh, you ready for this? So in American Gods, there was a coin in the woman. We'll cover all this. It's the only thing that kept her alive. She was already dead, but a coin went inside of her and gave her life. Well, that's a blasphemy against God and Jesus, the coin in the fish's mouth. God, Jesus is the one that gives us life. That's why he told the disciple, go find the coin in the mouth of the fish and give it to Caesar as to not offend him. Not as an obligation, but as not to offend him. That was the only tribute, the only recorded tribute Jesus ever gave to Caesar. And before that, he told the disciple, hey, he says, do Caesar's children pay tribute? And the disciple says, no. He goes, you're a son of the Most High. So obviously, I'm not going to make you pay tribute. So go find the coin in the fish's mouth and give it so as not to offend. It's not an obligation to give Caesar's things to Caesar. Jesus explained what that actually meant. Caesar gets nothing because none of it's his. God created the earth. Either you're a son of Jesus or you're a son of Caesar. Son of Caesar does not pay tribute. Son of Jesus doesn't pay tribute. So Caesar gets nothing. Do you understand now? Completely lacked context in give Caesar's things to Caesar when you don't look at the other miracle that Jesus did. Jesus, in fact, was accused of failing to causing others to pay tribute to Caesar. That's one of the things they accused him of, along with blasphemy, claiming he was God. So, if they accused him of causing others not to pay tribute, that would mean Jesus didn't pay tribute. It's pretty simple. But you see, what's happened with the Bible is we've been given it through the lens of religion, and they hide all these areas. They didn't do proper research. And so we've been given a storyline that everybody accepts, and they go right to that, or they go right to Romans 13. That we're supposed to be beholden to governments, but then they forget about the part where Jesus rejected the governments of the world that he could have had control over, that were ruled by the devil himself. So why would Jesus tell us to be in subjection to the devil's rulership of this world? That makes absolutely no sense. When he tells us to stay away from the devil and flee from the devil and get behind me, Satan. So I just gave you about 30 different verses right now. People say, you don't ever cover the Bible. We cover the Bible every day. You just have to be listening to what I'm saying. I'm quoting Bible verses in my head. So obviously, Romans 13 was mistranslated because it doesn't jive with, you have to have two witnesses. You have to have everything all together. You can't just cherry pick the parts of the Bible that fit. Oh, do exactly what the government says. Pay your taxes. Now, how do I get out of paying taxes? Well, I don't make any money, hardly. So when you fall under a certain threshold, you don't pay much taxes, do you? Now, I still have to pay into the Medicare tax, obviously. Everybody has to. They take 15% right off the top for money I don't even know if I'm ever going to get. So, but as far as taxes, I don't really, go much above the threshold of having to pay taxes. That's how you get out of it. The humble life. Sell everything. Jesus was on to something, wasn't he? Pick up your cross and follow me. If you're poor, you don't pay taxes. So, now I'm not telling everyone, don't support yourself. Obviously, we have to support ourselves, but there are ways to do it. I try to be the example to where you can still be averaging minimum wage and be well within the biblical guidelines of what the Bible really says, not what your pastor says, not what the religion teaches, of what the truth of the Bible really, really means. You can do it. I just did it. I tried to show you guys how it can be done. But, very few people go down that road because they don't want to believe it, because the mainstream is telling you guys that you're supposed to do it a certain way. They're saying, oh, get a mortgage. Oh, you make as much money as you possibly can. Literally, once you pass a certain threshold of income, you're giving half of that back to the government. Then you're paying insurance premiums and everything to cover all the stuff that you think you own. Taxes, house taxes, this taxes, that taxes. But very few people want to go down the road. In fact, they mock and scoff. It's really heartbreaking sometimes. This is why I climbed off of the Honey Milk Ranch stuff. I just got tired of getting mocked and scoffed. I'm over it. People are going to get what they get in the last days. The work is here. We've already shown you guys how to do it and what to do. But either people have a lot of excuses. I heard people tell me, well, I'm staying in this big city because God has me here to help, bring people to Christ. And so I go, okay, how many people have you brought to Christ in the last 2 years? Well, none. So that's an excuse. People want to live in the cities because they like the cities. It's like Lot's wife who got turned to salt because she loved Sodom and Gomorrah. She loved it. So people say, oh, I go, who would ever want to live in Vegas? Oh, then guess what? The devil has an answer for that. Oh, there are more churches per square mile in Las Vegas than there are anywhere else in the world. Okay, so what good is that doing? They're still Sin City, right? It's literally named after the devil. Okay, I'll stop, you guys. Because every once in a while, we need some real talk. So I don't just do these decodes because they're fun. It's actually a lot of work, and it's taxing. But the Lord told me they need to see this so they can stay on track and see the devils clearly as day. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, as many of you know. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to pop off here. I love each and every one of you. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.